Hi, welcome to the Beverly Hills View. I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, a longtime resident of Beverly Hills. We're here to talk with people in the art world who were connected to the genocide of 1915. Ara Oshagan, Lori Greco Garboushian, and Levon Parian. We'll talk about their work and what they did to commemorate the 1915 100-year mark of the Turkish massacre of the Armenian people. Photographer Ara Oshagan was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and raised in Wisconsin, Tennessee, and various other states. He graduated from UCLA with a literature and physics degree, attended Berkeley graduate program with an interest in physics, and we'll see how physics turned into photography. I don't know. Ara's work has been exhibited in museums and galleries across the U.S. and is in the permanent collection of several American museums as well as the Modern Museum in Armenia. Gallerist Lori Greco Garboushian, was born and raised in LA, earned a Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing from Long Beach State, and is married to entrepreneur Ara Garboushian, her partner in the Garboushian Gallery. She's married and she's a partner. The gallery is in Beverly Hills. They have 2 grown children, and she's going to tell us what got her to the path of starting a gallery in Beverly Hills. And on the end we have Levon Parian, who just returned from Armenia, where he had an exhibition of his work. Levon was born and raised in Lebanon as well, studied at Southern Illinois University and Art Center in Pasadena, has a Master of Fine Arts from Cal State Northridge, where he currently teaches in the art department. Levon's work is included in private collections and in museums across the country. Hello, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, yeah, great
Let's
to be here.
Let's talk about your career path. Lori, you majored in writing. What did you plan to do when you left college?
You know, after I majored in writing, we got married shortly after that, and of course, Ara's 8 years older than me, so we actually started a family and had 2 kids, and I kind of put everything on hold. I raised the kids, and it wasn't until 6 years ago that I came back to work.
Oh, and then, but you were an avid art collector with Ara all during your time.
Yeah, he actually started the art collecting way before me. He bought his first piece at the age of 16, which still hangs in our dining room. And I can say I've been collecting probably the last maybe 15 years, not too much, but now a lot more.
And your gallery is on Camden,
It's
in the
on
heart
Camden.
of Beverly Hills. How did you pick that location? It's right across the street from Garboushian Gallery.
Yes, that's a good landmark, of course.
But it's like really interesting, Garboushian and Gagosian. So.
Well, in the 1980s, we had another company that we started, and so it was good to have that company in Beverly Hills. And then when we decided to take on the gallery, it was just an easy transformation.
That was your space? You were already on Camden?
It was already our space, and we really did want a destination gallery and didn't really want to be in some of the areas where there's all the foot traffic, although that's great too, but we decided to be a destination gallery where people have to actually find us and drive. And
why did you choose Beverly Hills? Because you were already there, probably.
Yeah. I mean,
why did you choose it in the beginning?
Yeah, Beverly Hills is just Beverly Hills.
It's so great.
Yeah, I mean, what can you not say about it? It has something to offer everybody.
And when you're selecting your artists, because it's a very difficult job, what was your focus?
Our focus has always been, and foremost will always be, contemporary art. And we push the limits. We've got a eclectic group of artists, emerging mid-career.
Oh, I see. So we have a couple of pictures of a couple of your artists.
Yeah.
Who was one of them?
The one that was just up was Curtis Weaver, and we just had his solo show, and it did well, and it's actually his second solo show with us.
You had another, that one is great.
Yep, that one is the second piece that was in the show that just came down, his second solo show. And he's working more with sculpture in this part of his phase. So, yeah, he's great to work with.
And Ara, why did you live in so many different cities coming to the United States?
It wasn't my choice. That was with my family, and that's where the jobs drove us.
Is that right?
Basically, yeah.
And what kind of jobs were they?
Well, my mother was a professor in university, so she jumped around a little bit in a few universities. But until we came to Southern California, and that's where I started college. I went to UCLA.
You went to UCLA, so that's how you ended up there. Was she teaching there?
No, she was teaching at Cal State Fullerton, actually, and then I started at UCLA.
And then you have this interest in physics. UCLA and Berkeley. What is physics? I mean, how does that...
That is a good question. What is physics?
I don't know.
What's interesting is that in my family, I have a long history of art and then writers, my grandfather and my father. And so really what I really wanted to do when I went to school is to be a writer, right? But at the time, I kind of convinced myself that that was no real career path, and you can really actually, if you have a career path, you can also write at the same time, because many writers have done that.
Did you ever use physics?
Yeah, I consult now as a physicist, or image processing is what I do, really.
Yeah.
And then I support my photography, my habit, through my consulting
your
work,
passion.
essentially. My passion,
So
my life, really.
Your life, really. So science did play a part in it.
It did.
Yeah,
it
it really
did.
did.
And it's an interesting question how it actually affects the
Because
imagery
I want to know,
itself.
how did it lead to photography? Just how did you get into photography?
Well, physics was always kind of on the side, so literature was...
You were studying it, though.
Yeah, I was studying, but it was always kind of a side thing for me. It was always literature, and then at some point, for some reason, can't quite recall, I wanted to have photos with my writing. I wanted to sort of meld these two together.
Kind of journalistic, actually.
It wasn't journalistic, but it was supposed to be much more poetic.
Oh,
that was the whole idea.
Because
it was much
I
more
always
poetic.
wrote and took photographs to go with my writing.
Isn't that
Yeah.
funny?
But yours is
So
from
this was-
you too.
Did you? Yeah, so you were in
Right.
creative writing, which I didn't know about that. That's very interesting.
If you think about it, it's a creative way to express yourself,
Yeah.
just like art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're
So
very
that's
closely
what
connected. The
I see.
narrative,
Yeah.
the narrative of a still photograph and sort of a poem are very, very connected in many ways. In
So when
the
you-
way they're still, and the way you can put yourself into them.
And when you picked up
So-
a camera, how old
Picked
were
up
you?
a camera. Oh, I was like 30 almost.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
You hadn't started before
No,
that?
I hadn't.
Oh, you came
Yeah.
to this career late.
Very late,
And what
yeah,
kind of
but-
camera did you pick up?
Oh, my first one was like a horrible Pentax camera or something like that.
We were
Really
probably
cheap.
all using.
Yeah, right, very cheap.
But
But then it
Levon,
became very natural to me. That's how,
came-
and it became as a medium. It was very natural because I was always in movement. And writing is very solitary, very still.
Oh,
You have to sit.
interesting.
While photography, there's a lot of movement, and so that led me into photography, and that's what I that's what I do.
Levon, you started in the sciences too.
Yeah, I was a
And why did you,
microbiologist.
in microbiology? You guys are so,
My
We can
field
do
was
another
cellular
show on science.
physiology.
Good thing I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
No science at
but
all.
and you quickly got into photography.
Yeah, I was working on my master's degree in cellular physiology, and I decided that I was never going to be a great physiologist. So, and I always wanted to be a photographer. My grandfather was a photographer. My father had worked in a photo studio, and it
All in
was kind of
Lebanon?
in my family. Actually, yeah, pretty much. But I actually was born in Lebanon.
Right.
I stayed there for 2 years, and
Oh,
I
so
came
you-
to the United States. And then I traveled all over the world with my parents.
Why were
I
they
have
traveling?
a history like Ara, actually.
Why were they
He's
traveling?
global.
My father was an electrical engineer. He was designing systems for entire countries at a time. And he designed the electrical system for Pakistan, Iran, Honduras, and actually he designed the electrical system for Southern Commonwealth Edison down here too as well.
So you had no choice but to go into the sciences. How did you pick up a camera then?
Well, I was 4 years old, and I took a picture, and everybody started patting me on the back and made me feel good. So I thought, geez, that's it, man. I'm cooked. You know?
That was it?
Yeah.
And what kind of camera did you have?
A
Wasn't
little
a Brownie?
Instamatic or
An
something.
Instamatic.
Yeah. Actually, my first camera was a Brownie. I collect Brownies now.
Do
So,
you?
Yeah, it's a 2
Do you
and a
still
quarter.
find them? Can you still find them?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But the Instamatic is what I used to use. You used to plug that little
Yeah, the cube.
the cube in.
Yeah.
But mine was a
Those are good.
little bit
But
higher
The
than
Brownies
that.
are really nice.
So when you started, did you decide to make photography your life?
Yeah, I decided
career?
I wanted to make it my career, and I actually did. I started out at Southern Illinois University, and I went as a fine artist, and then my cousin actually told me on a trip to California to visit my parents. She said, "You have to go to this school, Art Center in Pasadena."
Because you went to Art Center,
So
right?
I said, "Well, why would I want to go there?" And she said, "Well, if you want to make it a business, if you want to make it a career, you really need a good school, and you need to do that." So I said, "Okay," and I went there, and then after I got out of Art Center, I assisted. And that was quite an experience.
Yes, you assisted before you opened a studio or
Yeah.
before you did anything. How did
Yeah.
you get a job as assisting a photographer?
Friends of friends, it was all interconnected. And I pulled a lot of snafus, obviously, but when you first start out, you make a lot of mistakes. But I ended up assisting Helmut Newton.
Yes,
for
my
3
friend
years.
and Junie.
Yeah, and
Alice
June,
Springs.
I met and assisted June, Alice Springs, yes, and also at Playboy. I was assisting at Playboy for a while too, before I opened my own studio. Yeah.
And did you ever assist in photography?
No, my path was very different. My path came when I started getting into photography. I decided to do a project.
Oh,
I
you
was
did a
like, I'm going to do book. I mean, that was my original thing. I was like, I'm going to do a book, and I'm going to work on this for these number of months and years, whatever, try to produce a body of work. That's how I approached it.
So it wasn't commercial. Yours
wasn't
turned out to
commercial
be
at all.
commercial then. Your path followed a
Well, it
commercial.
was editorial, commercial. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't really a good commercial photographer, to be honest with you.
But
I
you did
couldn't-
record covers?
I did album covers, movie posters. I did a lot of portraits of
there, we
celebrities
have
and things. Yeah,
on the screen?
yeah. That's a Dry White Season. That was an interesting poster that I did. They basically said, "Come up with any idea you want." And that when an art director tells you, "Come up with any idea you want," that's like the most miserable situation you could be in, because
remember
there's
that.
like 1,000 possibilities of what you could do. So I came up with about 3 or 4 different ideas, and they chose one. But
That was a movie. That was a movie
Yeah, it's
poster.
called-
Then this album cover.
Yeah, this is Sade. She asked me to come down. Actually, we were shooting it's a long story about that, but she was in town, and I picked up a camera and took some snapshots of her band. They asked me to do a few things, and next thing I know, they're saying, "Hey, they really like these images," and so they said, "Why don't you come out to the beach with us and shoot our video?"
Oh,
Next thing
so
I
you
know, I'm
did-
out there doing that.
So you did a video.
Yeah,
But
so-
you also, when I was with Interview, you used to shoot for us. You used to shoot
Interview
editorial.
magazine, yes.
Editorial.
Yeah, I shot for Interview magazine as well, and I've shot for, Rolling Stone,
Right.
Playboy, Newsweek, Time magazine.
So when did you decide to open your own studio?
1984.
And what were you going to do? Just do families
That was the
who
thing to
came
do
in?
back then. No, I never did weddings or families or things like that. I rarely.
Did you,
rarely
Ara? Did you ever do that?
No. No, I never did.
I've got 2 photographers who didn't do bar mitzvahs, weddings,
No.
That's a smart
graduation.
thing.
No, we just no. No, it was. We had to focus on
The thing to
celebrities,
do. So, Lori, the
Yes.
Getty had this wonderful exhibition a few years ago called Pacific Standard Time, and and what they did was have California artists, and we loaned a fantastic, huge Billy L. Bankston Dento, which was shown here at the Getty, and it went to Berlin. But while those things were in Berlin, while the show was in Berlin, and while they were here at the Getty, they had some adjunct exhibitions. And
Yeah.
you were able to be part of that.
Yeah,
What was that? Tell us about that.
We applied with them and told them what we wanted to contribute to this historic, event that was happening in LA. And they said yes, they accepted it. And what we did was we put together California, Armenian, Pacific Standard Time artists.
Ah.
So that was our little.
And who was in that?
And we had John L. Toon, and a lot of them were deceased, but we had pieces of John L. Toon, Charles Garboushian. We had William Saroyan, who actually is not only a poet but also did some artwork. Sam Chakalian, Paul Sarkisian, and then Leo Krikorian, which we collect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think we have
And
a
I think
Krikorian. Do we have a
yeah.
Krikorian on the screen?
He does these, or did these beautiful geometrical abstract paintings, and so that's what
and
we
he was
have.
a name that wasn't well known.
No, not here's the picture right here. Yeah, he actually he started up north. He started the beatnik movement. They called him the grandfather of that movement, which led into the hippie generation. And so he's a really, if you look at his history, a really interesting and really talented painter.
The Saroyan brought up the idea, Ara. Was that kind of an influence? Because Saroyan wrote and then also did watercolors. Did you think about that? Did you ever see it?
Yeah, no, I hadn't actually seen Saroyan's work until very recently in terms of the painting. But of course, as a reader, Saroyan is one of the first people that you read, because he's very well known, not only in Armenian circles, of course, but in world literature or United States American literature. He's made an important contribution.
Right.
So yes.
And Levon, how did you split your time between your camera and teaching? Because you've been teaching a lot.
Well, I started teaching in 2005, actually. So
Did you close your studio?
I did. I
closed
I
your
saw the
studio?
writing on the wall when the digital cameras came along. I said, "There's no way I'm going to make a living at this anymore," and that's it. And I think it's very hard to make a living as a photographer now.
And then how did you get a teaching gig? That's pretty cool.
Well, I love teaching. It's really interesting. I'm constantly getting challenged by my students.
And what do you teach?
I teach right now. I'm teaching black and white printing. So we still use film, which I tell my students, you can tell your grandchildren that you used film and they'll ask you what the heck that was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you still use film. Do you know how to go in the, I was going to say in the dark room.
Film is making a comeback actually in photography.
Yeah.
I think in fine art photography, film is a very big part of it. In photojournalism not so, but definitely a lot of people are teaching it now.
And you graduated from your Instamatic into what kind of camera when you were doing commercial work?
Oh, I have 250 cameras, so.
Did you still use the Instamatic? No, do they still use film, your cameras?
Most of them do, yeah.
And what about you?
I don't have 250 cameras. Well, Levon is a camera collector. He's got this collectibles and things at home. So, no, I just have a few.
But what did you
requisite.
use? Did you change? Have you been changing cameras along the way?
Yeah, what's interesting is that what I really get attached to is the instrument itself. It's not whether it's film or digital is really irrelevant to me. But what I really love is the camera that I've been using for a long time. And so when I do long-term projects like I'm doing now, one in Beirut in Lebanon, going back to my hometown, I am using film. I'm using my film camera.
But you use the film, and then do you use a dark room? I don't know. Does anyone know what a dark room is anymore?
No, I've always been allergic to this chemical, so I never liked the dark room. I give it to people to do it.
You have someone that who still would do that?
Sure, yeah. You process the film. There are labs who still process the film, and then they scan it for you, and then everything else is all like with scans.
Do you manipulate your images?
Yeah, the process is still very much digital, except the capture is on film. And then after that, it's scanned and it's all done digitally.
And when you shoot, do you shoot in a series? Do you think about doing a series of work?
Yeah, I mean, I shoot on the project, sort of. I work on the project, and so I don't think about what is the next picture, but for instance, I draw certain boundaries. It could be physical, or it could be like my book Fatherland was just the boundaries of this one region in Armenia. I said, I'm going to go take pictures in this space.
That's what I mean, so that's that
and
thing.
I just take pictures, and I took pictures on that project for 8 years or whatever, and then after that, I kind of look at what it is that the images are telling me about my experience, my reflection in that space. So like this is an image from my Traces of Identity series where I photographed the Armenian community in Los Angeles. So that's not a physical boundary because we are all over the place, right? It's a diaspora, so it's kind of a mixed boundary, a psychological boundary, a belonging boundary really, because people feel that they are connected to this culture and this past, and I photograph them. And so in the same way, I photograph without any specific thing in mind, and then afterwards I kind of look at to see what it is that I connected to, what it is that I found, what it is that makes sense to me from that experience.
And you, Levon, do you shoot with a theme in mind?
Usually.
Oh,
yeah.
you do. So where does the project come from?
It really depends. A lot of times I find a project through an art director, or I work a lot on portraits. So here's, like, for example, this is a portrait of David Lynch. This was at his home. I try to capture people in a unique way, in some unusual setting or whatever. Trying to force them to do something they normally wouldn't do.
Oh, I see.
This is Wolfgang Puck in his restaurant.
We love Wolfgang. So that's actually your connection to Beverly Hills, right?
Yes,
I was going to say, what is your connection to Beverly Hills? Lori has a gallery. You have Wolfgang.
Yeah, and Frank Zappa.
Well, Frank we don't have here, but Frank we love too. He was very close to the Interview family when we first started working in the 80s.
What about Gary, Frank Gehry?
Frank Gehry is one of our best friends.
Yeah, he's, I have a portrait of him. Yeah.
Oh, with your project.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there. He looks really young there.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about this real quick. This is when he after the shoot, he said, "Can you give me a ride home?" He didn't have a car. Apparently his wife had borrowed his car or something. And we went to his house and everything was leaking. It had rained the day before. And everything. You looked up at the roof and everywhere there were leaking, things were going. But it was the most unusual house you've ever seen.
It was in Santa Monica. He
Yes.
put a chain link fence
Chain
around
links.
it.
I mean, it was like he used stuff that you never would use on a house, and he was putting it all together. But it was leaking. I mean, he was still
You
at
were
the
so
beginning of his
lucky.
ideas.
You were so lucky to go and see it at that point,
Yeah, it was
because
very interesting.
I think he fixed the leaks.
Yeah.
So that's your connection. And you photographed buildings in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, buildings, and some projects have come through Beverly Hills. For instance, the image that was earlier, it's part of a series of the Armenian community, sort of looking at diaspora, and so a lot of this people have come through Beverly Hills, for instance, and I photographed them in Beverly Hills.
Joan Quinn.
Joan Quinn, yes, I photographed. She's part of the series. Yes.
That series is great. Look at this. I was so excited to be on the buildings. And we were on Wilshire Boulevard, right?
Yes, we were on Wilshire. So using
And
reflection was sort of the fundamental idea here, to get an image and a reflection at the same time.
There you
That
go.
one.
Yeah.
Great. I love those. They're so monumental. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the big project that the two of these guys did for Eyewitness. And I think you were someone who saw it, so you can talk about it. We'll be right back.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome back to the Beverly Hills View. On the screen, you're going to see a symbol of the Forget-Me-Not, which is the message for the commemoration of the 1915 massacres, the genocide of the Armenian people. And Levon, can you explain the colors and what we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. Here, there's basically 4 parts to the flower. The past, which is in the center, which is a black dot, which represents the genocide of 1915 and its aftermath. The present, which is the purple petals, represents the unity of the Armenian communities across the world. And the purple petals represents the future, which is the 5 petals. They represent the Armenian Genocide and the priestly vestments of the Armenian Church, and the 5 continents with which all the diaspora spread to. Then finally, the eternity is the yellow pillars of Tsizanagapert Armenian Genocide Memorial in Yerevan. So that represents that, which
So
is the
all
eternity.
all during this year, people who are commemorating the genocide in different ways have that little purple flower,
Yes.
the Forget-Me-Not,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because, Lori, you did a 1915 show mounted in your gallery on Camden, and who was in that show?
We had 4 artists. We had Sev Black, Kalu Squidel, we had Alina Manatsakanian, and Samvel Sagatelian.
And we have some photographs of the work. Will you explain a little bit
Sure.
how they connect
Sure.
to the subject that we're talking about?
Sure.
First one is.
Wait.
Let's get,
Well, first of all, we wanted to help with the commemoration of the 100-year anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. So we decided to put together a few Armenian artists, actually artist of Armenian descent.
Here's one right now.
Yeah, this is Alina's video. This one is really, really moving. It's one person died, and she is going to show this 100 times all over the world. The red ticker at the bottom, the numerical numbers, they're going to keep ticking until they reach 1.5, which is the amount, which is the number of Armenians that were killed.
1.5. That's very, very
Yeah.
interesting. And then we have a piece by Samvel Sagatelian, and the whole wall was taken up with that
The
piece.
whole wall was a big installation piece. I don't know if you have it here. This is one of the pieces. It took over one wall in the gallery, and these are his protest signs. And the interesting thing about these, you can pretty much read a little bit of it. He's intertwined English and Armenian lettering together to say the same word. And then, it's a little hard to translate all this, but you can see love in the middle. Actually, it says love is cruel. So, all in good with, it's all art. So
There was an exhibit also at the Brand Library in remembrance of 1915, and there was a large piece on the patio, and Ara and Levon, I think, made this piece.
Yeah.
Was it part of the Eyewitness?
Yes, well, that was one piece of our eyewitness project that Levon and I started back, how many, 18 years ago now? I think we met.
No, it's 1995 we started.
wow.
96 we met, I think, or 95.
Well, when was
you
that show?
started-
The Stern
One of those
Gallery.
years.
Actually,
Oh,
the
Betty
Stern
Sp-
Gallery.
Betty's-
The
no.
Stern Gallery is
Yeah, the
actually it's
Stern
in Beverly Hills,
It's
right?
in Beverly
It used to-
Hills. The
Betty
Stern
Hills.
Gallery. There's another
There you
connection.
go. That's
Beverly
where
Hills
we met.
connection.
So there you go, Beverly Hills connection. Levon and I met at that show.
Yeah.
And we didn't know each other, and he was working on a project, I was working on a project, and then we had coffee someplace afterwards.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about our projects, and we saw we were working on these two projects that were the same project. So
You
we
were
decided,
both working on the same thing. It was like
Yeah.
parallel lives. You were
Right.
both born in the same place.
Same
You
place,
both
both
had
studied
the
science.
science.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well, you know,
fantastic.
and it
Scary
even
a
goes
little
even.
bit.
It's even scarier because our families lived in Jerusalem together.
right.
Is that right? They
Yeah.
knew each other in
Wow.
Jerusalem?
Yeah.
His mother and my uncle were best friends
In the
Jerusalem.
Armenian sector, which
Yeah.
is
In
so
Armenian.
fabulous in
Yeah, yeah.
Jerusalem,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
So
So yeah.
when you guys were talking about it and you both were doing the same kind of thing, were you interviewing people at the same time? I mean, were you
No,
interviewing
not
the
really.
people
We
you were
had,
photographing?
I had started interviewing, and so
And
basically,
Had you started interviewing the people you were shooting?
You mean before we started
No,
working
when you
together, or
just
after?
were out, when you met, you were all working. You were working on.
well,
a
we
project.
decided to sort of start this project
Oh, I
together,
see, I see.
and then so we recruited other people. And
I see.
it was photographic at first, portraits, but then we realized that really that's not going to be sufficient. You know, to tell the story. You know, if it was we were doing with the Holocaust work, you could do portraits, and you don't need all this backstory because everybody knows
Right,
about it.
right.
So, but for the genocide, we really needed to have the stories, and so we organized a whole project to do interviews also, and so that led up to last year where we had this idea to do this installation, and had a tremendous opportunity to get Grant Park and the Music Center space to be able to do this three-dimensional
This is the piece
installation.
in the 100 Life. This is it's actually a prototype. The first one we did, and we experimented to see how it would work, and we learned a lot from this particular piece, and that went into that exhibit you were talking about. Yeah.
Oh, this was the piece that was at
This
the
is the
brand.
piece at the
So what
brand,
I was
yeah.
going to ask
Yeah.
is, when you had the brand exhibit, did you know you were getting the brand exhibit? Did you know you were getting Grant Park
Yes.
and the Music Center Plaza?
Yes, yes.
So I
Yes,
know
and
when I was talking to Ara about this, you had all kinds of obstacles. They were huge portraits. How big were they?
In the end, we had from 8 foot to 16 feet.
And you had to print them. Where'd you get a printer to do that? Who printed them?
It was,
Well, we knew somebody. I mean, you know, these
You
are
mean there's a
billboard.
printer that? Oh.
Yeah,
There's
these are-
billboard
yeah.
type prints, and
I
if you
love
go
this.
very large, they kind of they put it in two pieces. So our largest piece had to be done in two pieces. And so here are the images. This is
Here they are.
in the background is the music center, and this is at night at Grant Park.
Then you
And
go
we
down.
lit them from the
Yeah.
inside. It's also a green exhibit. We put solar panels on top, and the lights were run by the solar energy. And at night they glow like this.
There's our
Yeah.
science background.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's a science.
That's really
There you go.
good. Yeah.
It helped a little bit.
So how many
But
did you
and
have
here
in
is
the
the space
exhibit?
you could walk through it.
Yeah, how many were
It
in
was
the?
sort of this immersive space.
There were 24 pieces with 40. No, it was
45
45
actual images of survivors,
survivors. Yeah.
and then 3 of family.
and
So we had
you've
family
been
photos.
shooting them. You'd been shooting them for over years. So
Oh, yeah,
were
since-
they still? Are they still alive?
No.
Some of them? No.
Most of them.
So
are
you
dead.
got
I
them
think
all-
all of them are dead.
As far as I
Is
know,
that
yeah. As
right?
far as we know, all of them have passed away.
Oh wow.
And what was very, very moving for us is that, and we'd done this project over 20 years
I
almost, right?
know.
So we'd lost touch with some of the families, and then suddenly the families would show up. Like I was there at Grand Park one day where I heard there was like this bunch of people at one of the sculptures, and I went up and there was this whole family, 40 people from this man's descendants. He had 8 children and all their grandchildren and their children that had all shown up
So
to
beautiful.
take a picture.
Yeah.
This is our group picture.
Well, this
here
is
with the
actually
final.
after
And how
we did
did
a
they
So
know?
that was
show.
amazing.
How
They
did
knew
they
from
know?
the media. I mean, we had Steve interviews on the
And so they
newspapers.
knew?
So they knew, and they all came down to see it, and it was so this outpouring of family members coming to see it. was
How
pretty
did you
tremendous.
find the people in the beginning? How did you find these survivors? Were they all in Los Angeles?
A majority of them.
They
Some of
were.
them were from Detroit. We planned to go around and find people.
And just through the community you
Yeah,
found them,
yeah.
pretty
just
much.
talking?
You just
Word of mouth. People
Word of
told
mouth.
us, and we know this person, that person. Ara at home
Oh, right.
at 7 or 8. That
Yes.
one we did
It's
one
like
weekend
the
there.
Old age home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
old
that's
age
great.
home.
So you had this huge printer. You had
Yes.
this billboard printer. What material is it on?
vinyl.
It's on a vinyl. Okay.
It's on-
And it's a
who-
see-through vinyl, though. You can
Right.
light from the back. So that's a
Oh,
kind of a special material that we got.
So who
Well,
helped
here's an
you?
interesting story.
Yeah.
We were thinking of the costs were going to be so high that we thought about printing in China, and we sent a sample to China to see what kind of product we were going to get back, and it didn't compete with what we're getting here. So we just decided to spend the extra money and have the printed here. So that was really important for us.
I'm so glad too, because
glad
it
you
means
did.
so much to
yeah.
to Los Angeles and to the genesis of this project and what's happened along the way.
Yep, very much
Who
so.
helped you do the installation then?
Oh, this
We
is
had a huge crew.
wow.
Engineer? Did you have
Actually,
engineers?
so it was
or?
Levon and I were the artists who have the work, and then we had to work with architects because this was like three-dimensional. You need architects, and we needed a structural engineer. We needed permits from the county to be able to put these up. So it was a big involved thing, and
quite a team.
Our main architect was Vahak Tomasian, who was in that picture with the three of us.
Oh, the three of you in
Did you,
front?
did you
Three of
show
us
that
we
on?
have.
Yeah, we
we
showed it.
that. He was the main person who he made it happen. Like Levon and I wouldn't have been able to do it by ourselves. We're
I know,
photographers.
because
and
how
he
could
made
you?
it happen.
Yeah, there's
this
a picture.
one. Yeah.
See,
They were-
Vahag's on
they
the
were
on the
magnificent.
left there.
Uh-huh.
And
Who's
then-
in the picture? Start with the white jacket.
That's him. That's Vahak.
Uh-huh.
And then me in the middle and Levon on the right.
And that shows the scope behind you of how.
How
They're
big they are. Yeah, that's why we
magnificent
wanted
in
to do
person.
it there.
You forgot to mention the little wording in the front
Oh,
of
yeah.
each one, which is very,
The
very
writing.
heartwarming.
Right. So, so we organized oral histories, also interviews with them, and so we have these images as well as oral histories, and so we wanted to have people have an idea of what survivors went through, and so we called like single line expression, single line stories from their large stories, long stories, and we put a lot of them down on the ground right next to the survivors.
It
So
was beautiful.
I think
see-
we
you
had
see
a
the
picture
image,
of that, but I don't.
and
Maybe not.
you read
And you read what it
You
was
would
about.
read, or you
One
read what
line.
happened to that
What
person.
happened to them.
very
Yeah.
sort of quick way, but you sort of get an idea of the scale of the whole.
It's like those
genocide.
stories that were in the Holocaust Museum. Holocaust museums all over the world, the Jewish museums, all have that kind of remembrance of what happened to them. And we have that kind of remembrance too because of the two of you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Levon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
You're
and thank you,
welcome.
Ara. And thank you
welcome.
for watching the Beverly Hills View. See you next time.